Hey guys, this is VaulSC. Hope that you are doing well. This last weekend, I flew down from Auckland City down to Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand, to participate in a live Infinity the Game N4 tournament. And I know that for a lot of you guys, that's a bit of a fantasy at the moment because of COVID-19, still prevalent in many parts of the world. But I'm extremely lucky to be living on a country which is basically a remote island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, basically. And we have managed to do pretty well with keeping COVID-19 in check, so government's allowing us to go around and have some social gatherings. Originally, it was going to be a bit of a bigger event with Australians coming across and more people, but obviously we have to just keep to the region now. So I went along, I played Combined Army, and in the video you're watching right now, I'm really just going to be talking about my preparation for the event, my army lists, and a little bit of a rundown on who else was there and how it went. And then over the next 5 days, I'll post one video per day, just covering each of my 5 games, and you're welcome to sort of sit in and listen along and find out how I did specifically and see how things are progressing with N4. Obviously, hanging out with the guys all weekend, chatting about N4. I have a lot to say about N4, but I'll wait until after this video series to do the proper full-on review of N4 video, which I know that a lot of you guys are hoping for and asking me for. But we'll get there. Just be patient. I just want to do my tournament coverage first, and then we'll get on to the bigger picture stuff. So this is a little photo I took on the morning of the event. I know for a lot of you guys, you haven't sort of seen this in person for a very long time. But this is us in New Zealand. It was held inside of a brewery, which was interesting, which is why you can see all of the bags and things in the background. And if I'd pan the camera to the left a bit more, you'd also be seeing all the vats and things where they make beer. And just behind us, there's a big sort of court area where people are coming in and getting drinks from the bar and so forth. So it was a pretty cool little venue. A lot of people there, I think 38 to 40 people. There was one person who had to buy because someone didn't show up, but pretty well attended, which was awesome. A lot of people were looking forward to it. The organization of this tournament was really, really good. The communication was really good. The missions weren't as bad as they could have been. And people were generally in good spirits and friendly. The main thing that I didn't like about the tournament was the layout of tables. A lot of people came along who didn't really know how to lay tables out. The tournament organizer did drop the ball on that as well, without, he had the ability to correct a lot of the tables and didn't. And I did talk to him in person about that at length during the event, so I got that off my chest. But you'll see in the bat reps that I'm going to be posting that the tables were really disgraceful. That just has to be said. We can move on from that. It didn't fully compromise the event. People still had a good time. I still had some good moments, but I just want to, cover the good with the bad, if you know what I mean. I'm just going to go to a little Facebook post now where somebody has just sent in, I didn't take photos of all of the armies myself, I should have, but somebody posted to their gallery of people's specs. So we have, I believe, Vanilla Hawk, or maybe Assassins right here. The old Admiral with his Varuna. I basically gave him my Pan-Oceania army when his house got robbed and he lost his army. But as you can see here, he's recovered a lot of, well, not so much recovered, but he's gone and sourced some new models. So that means I've actually got my Pan-Oceania back, meaning that I might play them a fair bit. It looks like a combined army force, or maybe Shazvasti. This is Jed's combined army, vanilla combined. That Cat Scooter at the back is representing his Avatar. Avatar, very popular. As I'll be talking about later in this video, there were 4 vanilla combined army players present, all of them running the Avatar, of course. It is N4 and the Avatar got disproportionately buffed. Here we have our buddy Jono, who plays against me a lot. He's now moved down to Christchurch, but he is trying out TAC. He's normally a Nomad player, though. I did get to play against him round 5. Looks like Vanilla Yu Ching trying out the new Guizia. Bit more of a close-up on some of his camo. Looks really cool. This was a newer player who's playing, I believe, Hakislam, and the paint job in this one was really, really good. He actually won the Best Painted prize. As you can see from a close-up, very finely detailed miniatures indeed. Another picture of his amazing work. And even more pictures, since obviously our photographer here really wanted to get the most out of it. There you go. Very nice little detailing and highlighting. Another Combined Army player, again with the avatar there, as you would expect. Close up on his avatar, and quite nice base work on these ones. And I like the color scheme as well. Some classic old school models mixed in with the new ones, as you can see with the Speculo versus the old sort of drones. Quite like the red on that Ratsi as well. This is one of my. In fact, this is the army that I paint. I didn't paint it. Sorry, I voted as the best painted myself. This is Chris's Spiral Core. I don't think you're allowed to use Tohar at the moment, so Spiral Core is represented here. This is my friend JS, who has been into Guild Ball for a long time. Unfortunately, Guild Ball has been destroyed by the creators of the game, and we've got a few people migrating over to Infinity as a result. This guy's always been an excellent painter, and his fellow aimer here are looking really, really good. Just so impressive with the detail and the weathering and the color schemes. So that's great. It's a shame I didn't get to play against him because I wanted to sort of see more of his army close up and on the field. Looks like we have another TAC player here, not entirely painted, but what he's done does look really, really good. More close-ups. Liam's got Yu Ching. I think he said this was going to be his last Yu Ching tournament for a while, but he's certainly done a lot of work on his painting, so appreciate that. This was Manu. He played in our TTS tournament recently, so you guys might actually know him. I can't remember what name he used for his Discord login, but some of you guys on my Discord have played against him in the recent ICB if you were in Tier 3. He was playing O12 for this live event, and one of the reasons why he was playing in the Discord tournament was to practice for this live event, of course. So plenty of close-ups. I think this is another one of Chris's miniatures. Yep, same thing. Okay, we've got somebody playing White Company. I'm very interested in White Company myself, actually. Now that I've played a tournament with Combined, I'm going to be playing some White Company games because I've got my hands back on some of those Pan-Oceania models, and I play Yu Ching, so with both of those miniature collections at my disposal, I'll probably be combining to play some White Company. Very interesting looking sectorial. Looks like this guy's got quite a mixture of different choices available to that group. Some of you guys who play TTS may recognize Matt's Corregidor. We took photos of this army and uploaded them into the 3D Miniatures mod. This is what they look like in person, if you guys were ever wondering. And a lot of these miniatures are actually available in the 3D TTS workshop. So there you go, plenty of close-ups on these guys. By the way, this is not pearlescent paint or anything. It's actually like a series of highlights where one side of the miniature is blue, one is green, yellow. I think this is Chris lending his models to a newer player. A nice looking Marut there. And that's the whole gallery. There are obviously a lot more armies than that, but this is just the snaps he managed to pick up with his cell phone. Alright, on now to my discussion about the lists. So, I was playing the Avatar in one list and Norkius in the other list, and we'll talk about my first one titled LOL Burgers, the Avatar list. Bear in mind that the missions for this event were still based on ITS Season 11 and using all of the ITS Season 11 rules with the exception of Bravery, or whatever they call it, where medium infantry get the forward deployment bonus. We're not using that, but we're using everything else, including, for example, that you can't spend a command token to remove 2 orders at the start of the game from a player going first if they have a single combat group limited insertion. So with that in mind, nobody can strip 2 orders away from this Avatar list at the beginning of the game if you're going first. So Avatar Kodali, a Speculo Killer, you guys have seen me use that before. The thing is, you can now have those 3 units and still be able to afford the Noctifer, the Caliban, the Shrouded. The Liberto is still in there to help me defend the midfield. I don't regret taking the Liberto. And then some cheapest chips guys, Ikadron, Ardrone, and Nimbutron, which have all got buffs. In fact, if I think about it, every one of the models in this list have been buffed. So I'm coming into the event basically trying to milk N4 for everything it's worth, abuse all of the positive changes for Combined Army. But let's talk about it in a bit more detail. The Avatar has lost Strategos 3, meaning that your opponent will get a reserve trooper. You can't deny them the reserve trooper anymore, but the trade-off is extreme. You still have the tactical awareness, but now you have 2 orders from the Lieutenant Order, and as far as I can tell, I can't see any reason why Strategos 1 doesn't turn that into 2 regular orders. So you start the turn with 12 regular orders plus the tactical awareness order, or in my case, including one for the irregular on the Liberto. So if you're going first, your Speculo Killer is one of the reserve troopers. You find somewhere to put it, you throw the smoke grenade down, Kodali shows up. She's got a huge number of orders to spend blasting people. Now, link teams can no longer delay if something triggers their dodge within 8 inches. So Kodali is now even more abusive and oppressive than she was before. I'm very surprised that Corvus Belli haven't toned that interaction, that loophole down. But one of the things I wanted to achieve in this tournament was to show people how abusive that can be, and hopefully my bat reps will, will do something to that effect. I know that people from Corvus Belli, such as Bostria, watch my YouTube videos sometimes. So I want you to pay close attention and think carefully about, whether that tactic is too powerful and whether it ruins the fun for a lot of people. We'll be making a, pretty evidential-based argument over that over the coming week with the bat reps. So yeah, Avatar is probably, amongst the top 5, top 10 most oppressive and ruined things about N4, in my opinion. All of the combined army players were playing Avatar lists. I didn't win the event, I'll give you that spoiler straight away. The guy who came second in the event was using an Avatar. But generally the Avatar games were pretty destructive, and we'll talk about that a bit more soon. I mean, you are Armor 9, BTS 9, and if somebody crits you, you still get to try and make saves. So if you get crit by a combi rifle or even an HMG, you can still keep all of your wounds intact. If they're trying to hit you with an Oblivion, which is a good counter to the Avatar, remember, even a crit Oblivion, you're going to get the chance to save. And if they spotlight you, I mean, that missile bot is going to be up against the ECM guided -6. And then there's the fact that you've got Armor 9 anyway, and dodging on 11 as well. So killing this thing with a smart missile isn't the easiest thing in the world. It is doable, but just not the easiest thing in the world. Caliban, by the way, these guys are a little bit better. You've just got to be careful with them because they're not shock immune. So if they gain additional wounds due to Pathion and somebody hits them with a Red Fury or something, they're stripped of all of their wounds and just immediately die. Having said that, you can hit somebody with a D charge, and you basically CC 26, they're -3, -3 for surprise attack on top of that. If you crit them, they're taking 4 saves. Any failed saves save as a wound for your guy added. So he's pretty significant. I take the Caliban because he's very powerful, but also because he acts as an engineer and he can add wounds back to the Avatar, who, by the way, has gained remote presence, which I think's even more of a buff for him. It means you can re-roll the attempts to heal him with command tokens, and if you're in a certain position and he's destroyed or rendered unconscious, you can allow yourself to go into Loss of Lieutenant by foregoing the use of Mnemonica, which is optional, and then reviving him while he's in an unconscious state. That is an option available to you, which wasn't before, and I think that is a pretty big buff to the Avatar, in my opinion. So just checking to see if there's anything else I really missed that I wanted to say. But that's about it. We'll quickly go to my other list now, which is running Norkius. Why do I like Norkius? In N3, it was Shishkin all the way. Shishkin had Fatality level 2, but that has been removed from the game. Thank you. So Corvus Belli doing something right there. So now that Shishkin isn't super oppressive in shooting, we have to talk about her close combat prowess. Well, there are some models which get to roll 2 dice, such as Norkius. Shishkin only gets 1. With Shishkin shooting, if she's using the Red Fury to get the maximum burst, well, it's not very good at cracking tags now. And if she gets into close combat with them, yep, she's going to do a fair bit of damage, but not super quickly against a tag, whereas Norkius has the VaulSC weapon. So on the balance of it, on those things, I'm already liking Norkius a bit more. But let's continue talking about his stats a bit more. Let me just see if I can move my cam, because the browser's kind of messing up a little bit with the positioning of this. Okay, so 6-2 speed. I want you guys to realize that the dodge rules really are a lot different now, and the changes have been very impactful. Imagine you're trying to cross the battlefield very quickly, and you need to get in close combat with your VaulSC weapon. You move him 6, and if there's nobody watching you, you could move another 2, so you've got a 100% chance of moving 2 inches with that second short skill. Or if you want to dice it off, you could just declare a dodge. So with dodge plus 3, he's dodging on a 15, so there's a 75% chance for him to pass, and if he does pass, you move 4 inches instead of 2. If you fail, you go 0 inches, as opposed to getting 2 inches, so you lose 2 inches. So if he's moving 4 or 5 times, I mean, on the basis of averages, you're actually moving faster by dodging rather than your second move, which I find is a bit ridiculous. It makes me think of the 40k days where you're rolling a dice for how far you go with your next move. I think it's pretty silly. But having bonuses to dodge, not just plus dodge mod, but the distance is really huge now. And if you've eaten a few people alive, you're sitting there on 3 wounds plus NWI, and they're trying to counterattack you, and you're dodging away from them. That makes them extremely powerful. Once he does get into close combat, CC 25 with MA4 means that he's hitting with dice plus 8, they're at minus 3. He's getting bonuses to his damage if he uses his CC weapon. Doesn't work for the Vorpal, unfortunately, but it does get a pretty big bonus, I think plus 3. Importantly, in his active turn, he's plus 1 burst. That is crucial for gaining additional wounds, but also crits with the Vorpal CC weapon isn't going to insta-remove. It's just going to mean extra saves. So if you're making a last-ditch, last-order attempt to remove a tag, you want to make them save as many times as possible. With Norkius, pretty easy to get like a double crit, 4 saves. They have to pass it on 12s, and then they're removed. The EMCC weapon, I like that for use against something like a Mowang, for example, or an Aquila Guard, or something like that. So you come around the corner, you use your CC weapon, and it immobilizes them. And then when they're immobilized, they're a sitting target, like a really good prey for your pistol, just jabbing them in the side and sucking out the juices like a spider would after it's been cobwebbed. Most of the time, though, you might just go straight for the pistol or straight for the Vorpal, but the EMCC weapon is an interesting tool. On top of that, he does have shock immunity, unlike the Caliban we talked about earlier. So once he has gone up to 4 wounds, they can't strip that off him immediately. They have to actually do the wounds, and they've got to get through his really good dodging. Willpower 15 with a Flash Pulse, pretty sick, because Flash Pulses do stun now. You've got to take 2 saves, and if you fail, you are stunned for the rest of the turn, which is huge. The Breaker Combi Rifle is probably the weakest part of his kit, but even then, I mean, against a tag, at least you're halving their BTS, which is more damage, really, than like a HMG trying to cut through a Jotun. With your Breaker Combi Rifle, you actually stand a chance. He has stealth, which is significant because when you're moving in to get to your target, you don't want people dodging away from you. That is a big deal. NCO, I run him as my lieutenant, but if you decide not to because you want to take maybe a mentor, NCO is extremely good. At the time that I wrote my list, there was still a bug, a typo in Army, where the mentor didn't have counterintelligence, and that's one reason I didn't run one in this event, just so you guys know. But in future, I'm thinking of running Norkius Killer Hacker without being the lieutenant and making use of NCO that way, especially because when you're running Chain of Command and Norkius gets hit by an Oblivion, that does get a little bit awkward because you can't trigger the Chain of Command. So with all of those things that he's got, even though he costs 45 points, I think that this guy is really, really strong. One last thing, with hacking, he can use his Lieutenant's Order or the NCO Order to cybermask himself without requiring a roll, which is huge. That is even better for getting through enemy territory, getting past their mines and all of their traps, and getting into juicy, juicy close combat. Speaking of hacking, he is a hacker with a whip 15, and if he does face a tag who's on the opposite side of a massive concrete wall and he can't super jump over it, we didn't even talk about super jump, which he has, by the way, he can total control them with +1 damage. That can also be a tool against the tag that's trying to come close to him and blast him at close range. Not that you want to do that if you were a tag. So this guy has heaps of rules, but it's not like an N3 profile where it's just rules bloat and you've got a lot of little corner case rules which don't really do much. Almost all of his rules are really, really good and really impactful, and he's got an amazing stat line. So I ended up only getting one game with Norkius in the event, but we'll talk about him in a bit more detail when we play it. But this guy's going to feature in a lot of my N4 lists in Combined Army, and I would recommend that you guys give him a go as well, because he is very, very, very good, in my opinion. I still like Shishkin, but I actually think that this guy is better, all things considered. Raziat. Now, for some reason, they have parachutists in deployment zone, which just blows my mind. Raziats were fine. They were already good. And now they are like Van Zandt, but like twice as good. So your Raziat, unlike Van Zandt, is immune to their jammers, which might be around. Unlike Van Zandt, he actually has a really big, powerful gun, which does a lot of damage with high burst. He's just as good in close combat as Van Zandt, in some cases better, because he's got Natural Born Warrior, which now stacks with martial arts. So it's like, what? One thing that I talked to a lot of people about in the weekend of this tournament is that going into Army Builder and seeing what they've buffed and what they've weakened doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like walking into a department store which is run by a mental asylum, where you walk in and some of the best, most powerful stuff in N3, which is still going to be powerful in N4 because a lot of stuff hasn't changed, has been reduced in points costs. They've brought in a few things which is insanely bonkers good, or just added some rules or profiles or abilities which are insane. And then there's a bunch of stuff which just hasn't been treated and is still going to be backwater, unusable. Corvus Belli, they don't have a very good understanding of their own game. N4, in my opinion, is going to get solved pretty quickly. We are going to see which units and profiles everybody takes very frequently, and it's going to be a bit lopsided in terms of internal balance, with some factions always just running very similar lists, and there being a lot of sort of low-tier lists which aren't really going to work in a tournament setting. That is my feel. But the Raziat, extremely powerful. I'd really recommend you guys play him. It's hard to go wrong with him now that you can just place him on any part of the deployment edge. And if you really need to drop him in, there's no scattering anymore, so you're not going to lose him. He's just going to deploy back in your deployment zone. Again, unlike somebody like Van Zandt, he can actually be part of the game if he deploys in your deployment zone, because a couple of moves out, he's getting in range with a Spitfire, and that becomes extremely brutal. Unlike Van Zandt, he has Eclipse grenades as well, so if people are sitting around with MSV1, which is a thing now, they would see through smoke, but not the Eclipse grenades. So what is not to like about this guy? He's even got a heavy pistol. I don't know if he had that before, and the DACC weapon. This guy's just absolutely gold. Caliban Chain of Command, just in case Norkius goes down to some mine or some problem out in the midfield. We talked about why he's really, really good. The Shrouded Hacker, I've actually got two of them, one in Group 1, one in Group 2. This guy is actually even better than I thought he was. I learned in the tournament that regeneration basically just happens at the end of the turn. You don't have to spend an order on it, which is massive. So your opponent has to spend an additional order actually removing it off the table. But the Shroudeds, being hackers, I think are really important, because that hacking device allows you to do a Spotlight or a Carbonite or an Oblivion. And because the game requires you to take 15 models rather than like 20 or 30, there's going to be so much more hackable stuff coming your way. There'll be less situations where you're sitting out there and nothing hackable walks past. In N4, it's more of a target-rich environment, which is why you should take more hackers. And taking a hacker out in the midfield that has camo state means that they can't immediately just blitz you with a killer hacker. And the Shrouded is still just as good as it was before at pressing buttons, fighting things in the midfield, laying mines if you need to, and now even has regeneration. For 27 points, he's an absolute bargain. Ratsi, I did want at least some smoke in the list. Smoke's less effective because of the MSV1 that's out there now. But note that the Ratsi has received buffs. He has Berserk, he didn't have that before. He has Dodge plus 1 inch, very significant in this game now. Grenades, very, very strong. Chain Rifle plus 1 burst, didn't have that before. Still only costs 14 points. Very good at dodging in the reactive turn. So that's why I wanted at least one of them. The Q Drone, I think, is actually less effective than before, because you need AP nowadays. He also doesn't get assisted fire with shock, so I haven't even bothered with assisted fire. but I have put them in there just because I want at least one long-range gun. This list is more reliant on Norkius going over there with Cybermask and actually ripping the heart out of them. But if you're really needing to stop people reach objectives and just lock yourself down against some of their small skirmishes like enemy tiger creatures, Q-Drone is kind of useful. Also protects your backline against enemy Razyat and stuff like that. Our drone flash pulses are better than ever. Obviously, they can drop prone after being destroyed, which is why I've got a mid-tech and 2 slave drones to revive the R drones and the Q drone, which we spread out along my lines. Main regret is I didn't have the points for the Echidrons, which are amazing now. I really would have liked to get some in there. Liberto, some people don't think he's an autocluder anymore. I think I understand why. I still want one though. Liberto, very good at dodging in the reactive turn and getting in people's way, and that's something that I need him for. Imatrons, amazing because they can't scatter. If you fail the roll, they just appear next to the table edge in your deployment zone, meaning that if the best place to put them is right next to a wall touching your deployment zone on the side of the table, you can just put them there and tell your opponent you're not going to roll for them, because if they scatter, they just go back there anyway, which is amazing. Tiger Creature's very, very good now. I've only taken one. I would have liked to have taken more, but you know, you've got to be careful about the slots, the 15 slots for your models which you have. So I've only gone for one. 1 or 2 or 3 is fine. You don't need to be taking 4 to 6 like you would in the past, because you need to invest in other things in this edition. And of course the Noctifer, still just as good as it ever was. I think it's fine. I don't think that the new rules and the meta have really changed whether you want a Noctifer or not. People will be taking tags. Noctifers happen to be good against tags. People will be taking link teams. Noctifers happen to be good against link teams. So this is the secondary list that I played. In hindsight, now that I've played 5 games in N4 in a live setting with these combined army lists, I've learned some things and I'll change some things. I didn't win all of my games, but over the next week I'll post my bat reps and you guys can see exactly what happened in some very high detail and make up your own minds about how N4 is looking for combined army. I am planning on doing a big comprehensive video breaking down what I think of N4 as an overview and about the changes and the things that I think are good and bad. I will get around to that, and I will get around to doing some faction review videos once I've studied the game a bit more and I've become a bit more understanding of N4. And of course, I will very likely be announcing a new Tabletop Simulator League Season 3, probably sometime later in October. Let's just give us a chance to fix all of the 3D model texts. Let's give us a chance to let Corvus Belli maybe release a ITS Season Pack, fix all of the rest of the bugs in the Army Builder and the rules, and hopefully be off to a good start with a solid underpinning to all of that. I did make a post today in the announcement section of the Discord asking for some volunteers to help us copy across the text for the N4 models into the 3D Project Workshop. So do hit me up if you want to be part of that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it there. That has been my overview of the lists for this this ITS event that I was at very recently. Keep an eye out for my bat reps, all my photo gallery stuff over the next week. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again soon.